Episode 13, The Young Man and the Three. Mr. Jason Gallagher joining me. Trey has a game tonight, so he will not be on the intro with us. Jason, we have a great episode today with Mr. Austin Reaves, our friend from LA, and Duncan Robinson leading the interview. What'd you think, man?
I love this conversation because I thought Duncan was the perfect person to interview Austin, just given sort of they both have this sense of having to really overachieve, and a lot of people overlooking them early on in their career. So it was really fascinating. I thought that it was really interesting, given they both have such interesting mental outlooks on their careers. And I thought that, Austin has this like confidence, this calmness that's really awesome. And then, Duncan sort of is very open and vulnerable about any sort of like, obstacles he's had to overcome. And it was just a really fascinating, like, look from two different perspectives. So
yeah, I totally agree. We should add, this episode is a special episode, which we did in partnership with our partners at NBA 2K. Who have supported us for years, and they work with Austin as well. It was cool for me. This is our first Laker, and we get into all things JJ on the ep. But it was our first Lakers since in the last 5-month iteration of what we've been doing here. And I've said from the second I met Austin, I was like, he and JJ are the same person. Yeah. Austin's just younger, and I think it's we'll get to this with JJ on the show at some point, but it's funny to hear from him the perspective of like the two of them being together now.
Totally,
because this is a thing that was like they were friends from when we did the show with him 2 years ago or whatever, a year and a half ago when we did it. But it's a lot different when you're with somebody every day and you're in the trenches with somebody every day. And as you guys will see, what it sounds like is the relationship is only strengthened.
Yeah. I love that they discuss, how they get to know each other, off the court. So anything that happens on the court is just water under the bridge. And, we're recording this the night after JJ kind of had a mini freak out on Austin on the court. I don't know if you saw that, but yeah, it's great stuff.
So this episode, we taped this last week in LA, and it goes about an hour 20 or so, and then we have a bunch of special content from it that we're going to be putting on social with the 2K folks. And so I think with that note, let's get to Austin and Duncan.
Hello and welcome back in to The Young Man and the Three. Your guest host here, Duncan Robinson, Tommy Alter, of course, in the flesh. That's a fantastic jacket if you're watching on YouTube. Sir. And we got Austin Reaves, Laker legend, Hillbilly Bogey, I believe.
Yes, sir.
AR-15. Did we retire that one, the AR-15?
You can call me whatever you want, to be honest.
But yeah, Laker legend, Austin here. We're in beautiful Los Angeles. But thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate you.
No, for sure. Appreciate y'all for having me.
No, this is it's fun to be here. Fun to be back hosting a podcast, doing a little hiatus here and there, a little guest appearance here. But no, Austin, thanks for taking the time, man. Obviously, you guys have had an up and down season, some good moments and bad moments. One thing that has remained consistent is I feel like you've taken another step, with your game, being somebody that JJ, friend of all of ours, has come to rely on. What have you kind of felt this year? You've kind of stepped into from a leadership perspective on the court, ball handling responsibilities, all that sort of stuff.
It's really about, for me, playing the game the right way. If that's scoring, if it's assists, rebounds, whatever it is, just playing the game the right way. And I feel like, good comes when you do that. When you play the game the right way, I feel like good things come. So, obviously, like you said, it's been up and down, but I feel like every time we've kind of hit these little down streaks, we bounce back really well. When we played y'all in Miami, that was probably our worst game of the season. And I think we lost by 40. And then after
you didn't play in that one though. So
you're exempt. It doesn't matter on the score sheet, but Yeah, it was that was, a down point in the season. We go to Atlanta, we played better, we got beaten overtime, and then after that I think we won 4 or 5 straight. So, just battling to get back on those, high roads.
I said this to JJ before we did the pod with you last year, and he obviously knows this now. And I think I've said this to you as well at various points. You guys are extremely similar people in a lot of ways, almost remarkably similar. What was your first reaction when you started to get the sense back in the spring that this was a possibility, that this was happening?
I was very excited, just doing the pod with y'all in San Antonio, kind of getting to know him. Like you said, I felt like we had a lot of similarities. Also, both love to golf. So we spent, many rounds before the season, talking about what we could do to be successful. But it's kind of just the same mindset. It's really about winning. And, that's one thing I love about him.
What does a preseason golf round look like with you and JJ? Who's like initiating that? How many rounds are we talking here? What are the games looking like? I'm pretty familiar with your game because I've watched some of your content. I've actually never played with JJ, but I've seen footage of his swing. I've talked golf with him before, for whatever that's worth. But what does that sort of look like, a preseason round or an in-season round for that matter?
Yeah, we played a lot preseason, a little bit before the season. We haven't played as much since the season started, but if we're in a place where, it's warm, we have time, either one of us is texting the other, like, let's go play. And usually he gets like, I want to say 11 shots. So he always takes my money. I think I've beat him.
Sounds like a sandbagger to me.
Exactly. But he's like, oh, I stay with the Gen app. And I was like, whatever. But you can plug anything into that. But it's a lot of fun. You get him out there. You just, become closer. And the golf is obviously fun.
I was going to say, when you get in the rhythm and flow of an NBA season, I find this with my coaches and my teammates a lot. Anytime there's an opportunity to humanize them in a setting that's not basketball, I feel like it's beneficial to our relationship. I feel like golf is an incredible setting for that to happen, because so often we get in this rhythm and flow of like, all right, shoot around, prep, workouts, practice, games, yelling at you at halftime, you missed this assignment, that, and you kind of lose sight of the human dynamic of spending so much time with somebody. I mean, that's just, I find incredibly unique for you to have that experience where you're able to do it in such an organic setting. How has that elevated, escalated your relationship?
Yeah, I think it's just, like you said, becoming closer. I mean, he can say anything to me. He can, if it's the middle of the game, he could sit there and cuss me out if he wants. And I know it's coming from a good place because, I've spent so much time with him, like you said, just on a human level.
Yeah.
So it's really that. And he's told me multiple times, if there's a situation where I need to cuss him out, he was like, go ahead. Like, I'm not going to hold anything against you. He's like, we're both competitors and we both want to win. So that was really the main thing, is like, we can always be honest with each other.
What do you think? I mean, JJ well. We've obviously all worked together. In terms of intangibles of a coach, knowing him, you've played against him, but also seeing what he's like, just as a someone running a business, somebody running a show, everything like that. And we talked about it a little bit. And you talked about it with him a little bit, obviously. But when you knew this was a thing that was a possibility, your thoughts about him, even before these guys started?
Yeah, I think so many of the things that made him a great player, and in many ways an overachieving player, and I say that like in an endearing way. I think we all are strive to be like overachievers. Of what
he would say that,
yeah, capable of. All those things that made him that as a player translate seamlessly to any profession, whether that's podcasting, whether that's showing up every day and debating Stephen A. Smith, or that's trying to get the Lakers into a top 5 defense. Like, so much of that stuff translates just from, all right, there's an opportunity here. How do I maximize it? And turning over stones, finding ways, resources to get there, to get to that point. I mean, he's a maniacal worker, which I think cuts across so many different industries. And I think you see how competitive he is. I think, You obviously see it in a much different way than
I see it.
than we see it. Tommy, you probably have some very good insight into that.
I've seen it.
But when I see him like snapping clipboards and stuff and going to that level, I think he's now found a way, and you would maybe be able to speak to this, but to harness that into positive energy.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's still learning in that aspect because he's such a competitor. And I personally couldn't do it as a coach. Like, I would spaz out every chance I get. And you see situations where he's about to, and he reels it back because he knows everything isn't going to be perfect. Like, he always just says, as long as we're competing our ass off, then he can live with any result. But it's just when we aren't competing as hard as we should, then that's what really, really bothers him.
I was going to ask you this. I mean, one of his favorite words is sicko. You use it all the time on the show and in private. And I think part of why, you guys are so similar is you both are wired that way. And like we were saying before, in a lot of similar interests, but then also in different places as well. How are you learning to harness this energy yourself? Both with him, but just in general, in terms of your natural competitiveness and your natural spirit versus like as a teammate. You can't always spaz.
Yeah, it's a work in progress. Like I said, with him, like, you want everything to be perfect, but you're never going to go through a full game, practice anything where everything is perfect. That would be nice, but in situations, you just kind of got to read the room. You got to be able to understand. And I think that's where the real relationship stuff comes in with not just like the coaches, the players. There's certain people that you can talk to in a different way than you talk to others. So I think it's, really good to, learn your teammates and learn how to, communicate with them, if it's one-on-one or if it's addressing them in front of the group, whatever way, gets to them, better. Cause there's some guys that you don't need to address in front of the group. And there's some guys that you can say whatever, you want to them in front of the group, and they'll take it a different way. So it's really just about, having those relationships with the guys to be able to do that.
I'm actually curious your perspective with Spo, who have played for with USA as well. I think pretty universally considered, one of the best and most respected coaches around. When you're looking at like the intangibles of a good coach, obviously they're all different in their own ways, but what do you think they all have in common?
Oh, what do they all have in common? I mean, I can only speak to my NBA experience of having played for Spo, which is obviously a luxury, having played in one spot for one coach, especially when you see like the current climate of how coaches are treated in the NBA. There's just so much turnover. With Spo, I think the non-negotiable is the work ethic, the preparation. You have to have some level of that as a staff, as a leader, because ultimately that's what kind of bleeds down to your team. Is your team prepared? Is your team organized? And as Austin's saying, basketball is an imperfect game. You're never going to go through the course of 48 minutes and do everything, execute everything exactly right. But if it's done with intent, everyone's at least on the same page, and there's a will to compete, you're like stepping in the right direction. That's like non-negotiable. I think what Spo has really tried to capture with us, and when I've been on good teams and had good stretches, it's so much more than just like the X's and O's and execution. It's not like what set are we going to run, but more of like, how do you get everybody to buy into this? Like, we're all super ambitious people that have our sights set on, getting accolades, making money, all these sorts of things. How do you get 12 individuals, 13 individuals, whatever it is, to buy into something bigger than themselves? And I think it becomes increasingly harder. Like, high school basketball is one thing, right? Like, there's no egos, no agents telling you this is that or whatever. But the higher you get up, the more challenging that becomes. So I think learning as a leader what buttons to push, that's where it really makes a difference. And like, you've been on stretches of teams where everything's coming together, things look right, and then all of a sudden something can change, and it cuts both ways, right? It can be like sometimes the games where we look the most disorganized and whatever, like we are so far away from being a good team, something flips and changes, and it's more often than not the basketball stuff. At least it has been my experience.
No, that's a fact. I think that's right, though. The main thing for a coach is to get everybody to buy into the end goal, and that's winning. And I was with Spo for 2 months with the USA stuff, I could tell he's very intense as well. You know, every scout he has, he had his paper rolled up in his hand, kept hitting his hand, yelling. I enjoyed my time with him.
No, he's great. And he's found a way. I think also when you've been doing it for so long, you learn different groups require different sort of tactics. And I think that's like one reason why JJ is going to be such a good coach in time, is because he's not going to relent. Like, he's always going to try to find, all right, this isn't working. Like, we're pivoting, we're playing, we're going to figure out what's next. When talking about group dynamics and some of the teams you've been a part of, we talked a little bit earlier about how this is now like a leadership sort of opportunity for you. Obviously, you have guys that are senior to you, and AD, LeBron. Obviously, those guys are maybe like the leaders. But how have you found your voice coming in as like an undrafted player? Because this is something that I've sort of dealt with. But you start to, you know, there's a target on your back now a little bit more. You're showing up on scouting reports. How do you be a leader in that setting while still, you know, passing it down to young guys, but then also maintaining a level of accountability and trying to push forward, you know, this Laker agenda, if you will?
Yeah, for me, I think it's just trying to be a coach on the court. You know, you're not always going to be able to, JJ's not always going to be able to control everything from the sideline. So for me, it's being able just to have us organized as much as, you know, I can, because I feel like when we have bad stretches is when we get, you know, disorganized and it starts turning into random basketball. And that's when we're, you know, at our worst. So it's really just, you know, keeping us organized. And like I touched on, just having good relationships with everybody, being, you know, a person that the 14th man can come talk to, Max Christie can come talk to, Rui can come talk to at any moment. Like I said, having those relationships with those guys to just help them. Because at the end of the day, you know, if everybody's not, you know, playing up to their standard, we're not going to be as good as we need to be. And that's really it. But obviously, like you said, with Bron and AD, you know, those are our big dogs, and, you know, they got the loudest voice in the room. You know, it's good to hear it from somebody else. You know, even if, like I said, Max, you know, will stand up. Gabe is, you know, very smart, has a, you know, good IQ for the game. When he, you know, speaks, people listen just because we know that he's bought into the right things.
Do you feel like I'm curious your answer on this too. Do you feel like you have a specific point in your career where you went from, you know, everybody knows your story, and we can touch on some of it later, but like everyone knows your backstory. You went from being kind of the underdog and the guy that was slept on a little bit to you're the dude on the scout. You know what I mean? Like, no one cares anymore. Now it's like we're prepping for Austin. Was there was it the Memphis series or was it before that?
I don't think it was before that. I think I was on the scout, but it was, I mean, I think, to be honest, for a long time, it was, you know, how do we disrupt LeBron and AD? And if you could do that, then you could beat us. But I think after that, you know, playoff run going into my third year, I think that's when it became, you know, more evident that the other team's best guard was going to guard me. Because when we moved D'Lo to the bench, yeah, I think it was my third year, probably started my third year into the middle of my third year.
Kind of going off of that, just from your own kind of like psyche of how you approach the game, how have the goalposts shifted in terms of what you view as playing well? Like I remember when I was first starting out, you know, you're like very locked in on a box score. Oh, I had this, I did this, but like you kind of maybe knew, all right, well, like I made that shot, but like maybe my box score is showing better than how I actually played. You actually now have a responsibility that I don't have, which is you're like very much an engine of the whole team on both ends. You're a lot of times guarding the best player, your usage is higher. How have you shifted how you view your actual performance versus just saying, oh, you know, I shot 60% from the floor and I made, you know, whatever half my threes?
Yeah, I think it's just affecting the game in a positive, you know, outcome. I don't get really caught up into, you know, all the stats. I think it's really just the feel of the game. Like, I've had games this year where I had 19 and 7 and 5, and I genuinely felt like I didn't play good. And I think for me, it's just feeling good about the game afterwards. This is the lowest percentage I've shot from the field in my 3 years that I've been in the league. I think I'm at like 44 or something like that. And I want to be an efficient, player. I want to shoot, high 40s, if not 50 from the field. And I haven't done that, but I wouldn't say since I haven't done that, then I haven't been playing good. Like I said, I think it's just the feel of the game. If I come out of the game and I have 10, 5 and 5, but I impacted the winning basketball, then I chalk that up as a win.
So with that being said, a lot of narratives are shaped around media. A lot of those narratives are also shaped around, in my opinion, sometimes lazy reporting. A lot of that box score watching that we're talking about. How do you create peace of mind, especially in this bubble that is Laker Nation, where national media, local media, like everyone's eyes are on what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
One, because it's the Lakers. Two, because you have LeBron, like quite honestly. How do you create like sort of a sacred space and not letting that get infiltrated with nonsense and noise?
Yeah, and I've thought this for a long time, even going back to college. Like, I feel like people just don't really know basketball. Like, and you can be one of the biggest, media guys. I still genuinely don't think that you know basketball. And I'm not saying specific people. I just don't think that people really watch the game in an aspect of, did you help the game? I think people go to the paper, to the box score, and just say, oh, he went 5 for 17. He had 14 points and 7 assists, 4 turnovers. And then they just go off that. Like, there's been many games like I've spoke to where I haven't shot the ball well from the floor, but I impacted winning. And
if you want to call some people out,
no, but it's been
Duncan's got some stuff to let on the chest.
I was saying, I might co-sign. I don't know. We'll see.
But it's been like that since my rookie year. Like, obviously, I didn't have the responsibility then, and like, I was more of a plus minus guy at that point. Like, if I was, in the positive and plus minus, I was happy. Wasn't shooting the three good. I think I shot 33%. Everybody's like, oh, he can't shoot. And it's like, y'all don't know how the rhythm of the game, like, you go 6 possessions without touching the ball, and then you got to catch and shoot one when you're wide open, or you're just checking the game. You haven't played in 20 minutes. Like, I feel like they don't, if you haven't really played in the league, or you really don't have a good like aspect, or you've never played in big games, I feel like you just don't really understand. So therefore, I don't really care. Like, you can say whatever you want about me. I've had it, said before. I'm not supposed to be here. Like, I didn't get recruited out of high school that much. I was too old coming out of the draft. You heard all the stuff. So
sure,
we're gonna get to that.
24-year-old rookie.
Exactly.
That's gonna be
yeah, so you're gonna. I've been hearing this since I was 17 years old. So why should I start caring now?
What do you think?
I mean, I respect the hell out of the perspective. I think it's challenging because we also live in a world where the narratives actually tend to materialize sometimes in terms of contracts and money and like in real things. So it's sometimes hard to remove yourself from it. I will say that's one area of growth that I've definitely experienced over my time. And I'm not here saying that I don't let it affect me. Like I said,
hear all of it.
Exactly. Anybody that says, I think what I'm hearing from you, which is super impressive, is it's impossible to never not hear it, but to not let it take the next step and let it impact or affect you. That's where you experience that compounding effect, which I've gone through. Like, I remember after I re-signed in Miami, those like first 2 months, and I remember going into those first 2 months being like, oh, like, I have this new wave of confidence. I'm like this new dude. I got paid. Like, and I don't mean I'm like out here, I got paid like I'm stunting on people, but I'm just like, this actually this should help my confidence.
For sure.
And it's a fine line because it can, but when it starts to go the other way, it can compound the other way and start to feel like it's an avalanche coming down on you. And then having to like unpack that and get back to a place of neutral and be like, all right, back on solid ground. How do we move forward? That's what I've been through, which is, it's for me, it's like the most challenging thing I've been through from a basketball perspective, but it's the most I learned also going through that.
How much of this is also, locker rooms, culture? I mean, I'll give you sort of a specific example of this. This year, I just saw sort of friend of all of ours, Alex Caruso in OKC, and he said some health stuff, but like Alex has gone, when he's been playing, he's gone 2 weeks without scoring, but he's like, he's got paid, but he's also happy. And it's a really good team, but he's like, he knows what he has to do. He works his ass off. He's all over the place. And so if you're someone who, is looking at the box score and you look at Thunder box scores, you'd be like, Alex Cruz is having a horrible season.
Yeah.
And anyone who's around the Oklahoma City Thunder is going to tell you the opposite. And so
For sure.
There's a lot of examples of that. But I guess my question is like, how much of this is not just personal confidence, but also the confidence of the locker room overall to lift up guys? You both have had teammates who have been in that spot and basically be like, we know what you're doing. Whether or not it's represented in the box score, we know what you're doing.
I think from day one with me, I feel like with the majority of people, even fans here in LA, like I think I averaged 7 points my rookie year, but it was all those, little things, taking charges, diving on the floor for loose balls. And I think that's really, where it started. And you want guys like that on your team, like Caruso. Like you love having guys that, play, 110% every single game. They're going to take charges, do what they have to do to, affect winning. And that's just kind of like I was talking about, like you said, like you look at the box score, he had 2 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 20 minutes. But you don't ever slide it to the side where you see he's got 3 steals, a block, plus minus is plus 16. So I think it's just, those little things that, I set a foundation for myself here. And, it's kind of just grown from there. Just having the trust of, obviously LeBron and AD, but also like the front office and the coaches as well.
What was the process of kind of getting like stamped by those guys and what that meant for you? We're talking about, feeling confident, getting votes of confidence that kind of pushes you forward. How much, I got to imagine that's been a big needle mover in terms of your own mental of like looking over there being like, oh, he wants me to kind of get to mine, like what that does for like your psyche.
Yeah, it does a lot. Obviously when you have 2 guys of, their caliber, but I think it just goes, I've always had a really good relationship with them both. I think it's, like I said, because of, the things that I came in and did was affecting, we weren't winning, but I was playing winning basketball, and they knew it was someone that they could trust to go out there, not shoot a lot, but do all the little things. And it's just grown since then. And then in the Memphis series, game 1, when, I took over in the 4th was the first time that I was like, holy shit. Like, I remember, Brian, I think I told this when I was talking to you and JJ in San Antonio. I remember it was the 4th quarter, probably 5 minutes ago or something, and I had got a bucket or 2. And I think D'Lo got the rebound and outletted it to Bron, running to the corner. Like, well, Bron's got the ball. So I'm taking off running, and I hear him. He's like, AR. And I turn around. He's like, come get the ball. And I was like, oh, shit. I got to do something good, because if not, everybody's going to be looking at him crazy. So therefore, they're going to look at me crazy. And then I think I got a bucket, but ended up, taking over that game, winning game 1. And then from there, I think that's when it, really took off with the confidence that they had in me, not to just, play the right way, but just to take over games and dominate games and win games for us. So it does a lot. And it's, obviously a lot easier when they're on the court, because I would be much more worried about LeBron and AD than I would be me.
He said he think he got a bucket. He had like 12 straight to
to
close them out.
I don't know if I had
A lot of buckets too. That was like let you know about. I remember we were in Milwaukee. You know how they got in the training room back there, those TVs.
Y'all beat the shit out of them too.
Yeah, nah, I think they actually I don't even remember what year that was.
Y'all swept them.
That was the year we went to the finals?
So. Yeah,
maybe it was. All right, never mind. So we won game 1. Yeah, my fault. Or maybe that was game 3. I don't know. They're all blending together.
I think it was 1.
But I remember watching that fourth quarter, and yeah, I mean that was like, it was such a loud moment for everybody, and also like there's so many fans that don't tune into like regular season basketball and then they just turn on the TV when the playoffs come. So like that must have felt like an I've arrived moment. But I think what's interesting is you reference all these moments that happened prior to get to that point, because that moment doesn't happen without you having the body of work and earning the trust and developing over time, which all those other moments actually aren't, getting to a pick and roll and hitting a midi. It's
sure.
Like you said, it's getting on the ground for a loose ball. It's taking a charge. It's making a correct rotation, making the extra pass. So I think they're just in like basketball media, and I hate to do like the narrative on like today's times and I'm an old head or whatever, but people tend to get worried about the wrong shit, in that thinking that it's just that moment happens in a bottle or in a vacuum, where it's like, it's this compounding effect of all of these things you build up to have that moment. And that's like, I mean, it's a testament to you, man, like the work that you put in, opportunity from your coaching staff and trusting in you. And, you're able to have that experience, and that's able to be a springboard for so much more.
For sure.
What advice have you given to Dalton?
Really just to be him, and don't overthink things. Like, he's a hooper at heart. Like, he knows how to get a bucket. If anything, it's more just how to, be effective defensively, knowing angles, sacrificing your body. He's on an elite level shooting the ball when he's shooting it confident, not thinking about it. We've seen, what do you have here? Like 38 in the preseason game in Phoenix. His shot making ability is very high off screens. We run a lot of ATOs for him because of his shot making ability. He's 6'8", has a high release. He might not be 6'8", might be like 6'7". I don't know, but he has a high release. But it's really just for him to be himself. I think that when he does get himself in trouble, it's when he's trying to think too much. But we've played a lot of pickup in the summer. I've seen what he's capable of doing. I see how hot he can get from 3, but he can get to the rim. He's athletic, something that I know me and you wish we had. I'm jealous every day I see him go dunk one, and I'm just like, man, I wish I could do that. But like I said, I think it's really just more so just be him. Yeah.
Well, I was say, it's funny you say that, because I'll see, JJ runs a lot of those sets that, I mean, everyone kind of runs them to get a shooter open, slip a screen, come off a pen, whatever it is. And I'm like, oh man, he's like kind of playing like me. I was watching you guys on TV. He's kind of playing like me. He's like getting a handoff, he's shooting, and then I'll like back cut, like scratch it back and dunk it. I'm like,
oh, I don't have that.
I don't really have that.
Hey, you did have an assist the other night. I don't know who y'all was playing. You had the hook pass to Bam for the dunk.
Oh, that was to Khalil.
Was it?
Yeah,
that was an elite pass. So I was like, people say he can't pass. That's cap, because that's a pass right there.
Maybe.
I think it was. Yeah, it was in Sac. Yeah,
Khalil's like 7'1". He has a 40-inch vertical.
It was him.
I just kind of put it up there.
That was a good pass.
But I think Dalton has like so much. Obviously, I think early on you're seeing his shot making, and that's like what he brings right away. But I think he has the potential to be obviously a lot more than that. Certainly a lot better than my prototype as a player, just given his athleticism and what he can do. Once again, another older guy coming in, JUCO. What's he? 23 probably.
I think so. 23.
I personally think that those guys tend to get undervalued when you're talking about the evaluation of guys coming in and helping teams win. They might not be the 19-year-old that's jumping out of the gym and has all this potential, but if you're talking about winning basketball and trying to contribute to winning, I think there's value there for sure.
We did an app with Desmond Bain over the weekend, and he said this, and I'm just curious what you guys think because you have your own version of this. Do you think the league's biased against older players?
100%.
You're saying in the draft process.
In the draft process. Like, why does this keep happening though? Like, why is Dalton, I mean, I know I'm happy for you and JJ, but like, why is he there?
I was surprised. I don't know. That's a great question. I didn't think that there was many people in this draft that, I mean, you go back to what he did. I don't know. I think he averaged 22, 23. I don't know. It's a great question. I think that they just always get into the potential stuff, and I think teams try to hit a home run too much instead of just taking a guy that can help you be successful now. I don't know. I wasn't drafted. Fuck the draft.
I don't know either. I think the home run point is a good one. I think there's something invaluable, and I've never learned this, but I know you have in college. You learn something when you're the best player on a team. And a lot of times these one and done guys are not necessarily the best player on their team. Watching you play in college at Oklahoma, the responsibilities that you're tasked with. Now, what some scouts would maybe look at and say, all right, well, he's not going to have the ball in his hands like that. But it's not necessarily, it's what you're doing in its entirety to impact the game and how you're moving your team forward. Now, your role was not what it was at Oklahoma day one when you got to the NBA, but now you've gotten to the point, I mean, maybe not the same level of usage rate, but you're basically playing the same way you played your senior year. So, and you look at Jalen Brunson, for example, everybody was like, all right, well, he's posting up guards in college. Like, he's not going to do that in the NBA.
Cold.
Yeah. And now you're watching him do that exact same thing, in MSG every night. So it's like, I think some of it's people trying to overthink it and over forecast and hit a home run and do that sort of thing. But I think it's also like, you have to evaluate the entirety of the game and not just saying, well, he's not going to have that usage rate. All right, yeah, his usage rate's high in college, which is maybe why he's putting up numbers. He's the best player on his team, but what else is he doing within the context of that game? And do those pieces translate? But, it's also why there's a revolving door of front offices and coaching staffs, and no one's got this figured out. It's not a science.
I wanted to ask about the Bron and Bronny moment, just for you on a personal level. It's obviously just an insanely cool thing I think for everybody to see. At this point, with your relationship with LeBron, having played for him, just can you put into perspective what it meant for you as as an active observer, as someone who is, not in the family, but has seen this growth happen over time?
Yeah, it was a really cool moment. I get the opportunity to see dad and teammate, and it all kind of just blends together. They do a really good job of just being themselves. But that first game when, they subbed in, I was so locked in on the game, I didn't know what was going on. Crowd started going crazy, and I'm looking around like, what just happened? And then I seen Bronny. But just to be in that moment, I talked to Bron a lot. I asked him a lot of questions, and after the game, I was like, that felt good, didn't it? And he was like, yeah, that was special. So just to see, that be done for the first time, and it's just cool because you see all that Bron puts in the game to be able to even have that opportunity. It was just special.
I think that's like a moment in NBA history that will never. Like, when you're watching it, I think there's like so many public haters of like, oh, this is what nepotism, this, that, whatever. I don't know that will ever get repeated or will ever exist again. We talk a lot about like records that won't be touched. I know it's a different sort of record, but like the way the game's trending, like even Steph stuff at some point is probably going to get touched. As unreasonable as that sounds, somebody's going to come around. The 3-point rate, scoring rate, all this stuff is going to get astronomical. I don't know that the longevity of what he's done, I mean, still to this day, his dunk he had the other night with the
Fucking
left hand. I'm like, I'm
It was
watching this. I'm
crazy.
like, that is. Here I am. I turned 30 last year. I'm like waking up, my back's hurting. And I'm like, this dude is just like setting records for minutes. I'm like, what is going on?
It's crazy.
Do you like just his habits? Like, does it jump off the page in terms of like how he handles himself, body, diet, like everything?
No, it definitely does. I mean, he's the first one that in the gym getting treatment. Most of the time, the last to leave. And like I said, I ask him a lot of questions. So I think we were coming back. This was from our first like road trip. This early in the year, we were coming back from like a 6-game road trip, and we had an off day. And I basically was just like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" Like, you know, we're getting in late. It's like 2:00 in the morning, 3, whatever. And he was like, "Well, I'm gonna go play like 2 or 3 games of Madden." I was like, "It's 3," and he was like, "I gotta get a couple games in." So I was like, "Cool." So like, what's tomorrow look like? He was like, "Oh, I'll wake up, eat breakfast, probably get a massage, then get treatment." And then he was like, "I'll, hang out with the family for, 2 or 3 hours." And then it's like probably like 5 at that time. He said, "I'll get more treatment for probably 1.5 hours, 2 hours, and then eat dinner and go to sleep." And so, but it was just like, he went by step by step by step. And I was just like, that's a lot. Like,
yeah,
but it's every day though. Like it doesn't matter. He doesn't skip days. Doesn't matter if it's an off day, if it's not an off day. My whole this is funny. My whole goal, my rookie year, when we figured out that we were bad, and we wasn't going to make the playoffs, I was like, I'm gonna just beat him to a game. Like I was like, I'm just gonna be the first one at the arena. So I was like trying to figure out what time I needed to get there. Say it's a 7:30 game. Okay, I'll get there at 2:30 or 3 or whatever at the first time. And I get there, I'm pulling up, and I see his car. I'm like, shit. So next game, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get there at 1:30. And the closest I ever got, I seen him driving down the tunnel. And after that, I was like, I'm not getting to the game this early anymore. Like, I'm just sitting back here bored as shit. Yeah. So, but it's like he gets there, he does his routine every single game. Like I said, he doesn't miss. So it's like, it's very impressive.
Give a little more insight, if you don't mind, into your routine outside of the active recovery of playing some golf. What else are you doing on an off day to kind of like get your body right, whether it's going to get shots or, I know it's probably nuanced depending on, if you played a couple back to back, whatever, but what are some like staples of your routine?
Yeah. It's always different for me a lot, just depending on how I feel. Like you said, there's back to backs. Some days you get 3 days in between. But like today, got up like 8:30, went to the gym 8, shot for probably like 25 minutes, 30 minutes, got on a massage table, and then had some active recovery at the golf course.
Smart way to flush out the legs,
exactly,
upper body, rotation.
Yeah, just get to moving a little bit. Yeah. It's better than laying in bed all day.
100%.
That's basically the day. It changes up a little bit here and there. Just like if it's not a massage, it's some type of treatment in the training room. If it's some type of cupping on whatever's bothering me. But it's active recovery is mandatory.
Have you changed yours at all?
Yeah, it's definitely like shifted and changed. It's interesting that some of the changes they feel kind of like minor in the moment, and then how things like progress. You're like, oh, that's kind of like working. Like I'm gonna keep doing that, and then all of a sudden you're 3 months down the line, you're like, oh wow, like almost have like an entirely new routine. There have been consistencies that I always do, especially on like game days. It's not like superstitious, but there's just like a rhythm and flow to a game day.
All game days feel the same for me.
Yeah, that I like to have, which can mess you up sometimes too. Cause like I always joke with friends and family of like, there's no days of the week for like an NBA player. It's like there's a game day, there's an off day, there's a practice day, and like that's it. So it might be a Monday. If we're off, like I'm treating it like a Saturday. Like that's just like how it is. But like finding a rhythm and flow, I think, to game days is important. I think where I've probably changed the most on off day routines is finding ways to create a little bit of balance and like just get away like a little bit. Obviously, I'm still going to have my shooting stuff. I'm still going to have the treatment stuff getting on the table, especially as I get older. It's actually trending more towards that than it is like hard on the court time.
Yep.
You want to pick up a ball, smell a gym, whatever. But like finding the active recovery of like being outside and like just getting like some sun. We're very fortunate individuals. We live in Miami and LA. Like we have that luxury. So like, who are we to not take advantage of it? Like
Exactly.
you gotta do it. So just like it's changed, I should say, over time, but the kind of body of it kind of exists and still the same.
Are you a nap guy? Game day?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
How long do you nap?
I mean, it depends. If we have shoot around, if we don't have shoot around, sometimes we meet at the arena, 4 hours
like
before. But
or something.
yeah.
What do you? Let me ask you this, because I want to hear about the nap. But do you prefer shoot around or walk through?
I think it just goes back and forth with whatever's working.
Yeah, gotcha.
We were doing walkthroughs at the arena around like 4:30. We played at 7:30, and we were winning at the time, and then lost a couple. So now it's like let's try shoot
Mix it
around.
up, yeah.
So my nap is hour and a half, 2 hours. It's
solid.
Yeah,
That's
it's
some good sleep.
It's
right
good.
there.
Yeah,
Touch a REM cycle. Get out.
Exactly.
Back
Feels
in,
like
back
everybody.
out.
Is there a meta player that is not a nap guy?
I don't think D'Lo's a nap guy.
Not at all.
Oh, hey, if you are, I'm sorry, but I don't think so.
We got one.
I don't think.
I mean, just because of how like schedule based, how like sleep deprived we all are based off of travel, I find it. I'd almost go as far to say like I wouldn't trust somebody that doesn't take naps. I'm like seriously though, like we actually. Our travel schedule is crazy because we are at least 2 hours from everywhere. Outside of Orlando, like that's our closest flight. But literally every other flight is 2 hours. So like we're constantly getting in 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So like if you're not napping, it's like
East Coast too.
Yeah, what
You're
are you
back there
doing?
too.
the craziest sleep schedule I've seen, and sorry to put you on blast, is Kyle Lowry. We would get in at 3 a.m. and he would be up at 6 a.m. And I'm like, dude, how do you function?
I would die.
And he would like go out, he would play 18 holes and then go to practice. I'm like, dude,
like nothing's wrong with him.
And he's been doing it for 17 years or whatever it is. I'm like, I don't know. I've never felt more like a human than when you get in at 3 a.m. You have to wake up at 8. You get like 5 hours of sleep. You got to go to practice, whatever. So naps are crucial, basically. 2 hours though, that's good feedback though.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little bit shorter than that. I try to be like 45. But sometimes it ventures into like the 90-minute range.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Have you guys changed your information diet? Your mental, in terms of your mental
information diet. That's a nice.
Yeah, I didn't know what
nice
you was
term.
talking about.
I need a little clarification on that. It's good.
And this can be basketball and or whatever's going on in the world. I mean, even this has been a crazy week for you guys. Obviously, there's been a ton going on, so it's an exception to the rule. But you also, we were talking about before we started about getting yourself ready to play and what you look at, what you watch, what you read. You're talking about you read everything, but at the same point, you can't read everything, especially in the playoffs, because you need to be locked in. So in terms of just how you can manage your focus to be at a place where it needs to be.
I feel like I'm very simple. I just feel like when it's time to play, it's time to play. Like I can just shut all of it off and, just enjoy basketball. Regardless, good, bad, indifferent. I enjoy playing basketball. And when it comes to just hooping, I could be dead tired 20 minutes before a game. And then you get out there, the lights are shining, stadium's going crazy regardless, home, away. It doesn't take much for me to figure out the moment and just go play. I just enjoy basketball.
In terms of, that's a great answer, first off. And there is a part of that really resonates with me in terms of, I've had games where I go in and I'm like, man, my body feels terrible. This, that, whatever. But then like something happens and you get lost in the actual play of the game and you don't even realize like, oh, this was hurting or this. Yeah. Now, I wish I could get to that place all the time, because sometimes there's games where like your body's still barking at you, halfway through the second quarter and you're like, damn, this is really hurting. in terms of information diet, I think the biggest thing is I try to go through like little cleanses of like, if I'm catching myself being a little bit too dependent, opening this app or that app, Twitter, I'm off entirely just because Twitter's like X. Sorry,
I don't even have it.
Yeah,
I haven't had it since I was like 12.
I'm off that entirely. I just think it's like a cesspool. No disrespect. I know it's like great informationally or whatever, but like there's so much noise out there.
There's so
it's
much
like,
shit,
and it's just an echo chamber of nonsense. So I'm like, I'm off that. Instagram can be equally as damaging, I think. So with Instagram, like if I'm catching myself like just going to that app a little too autonomously, I'll just delete it for, whatever, 10 days, 2 weeks on a little cleanse right now. But yeah, so like I'll just like clear it out of sight, out of mind. And then you realize actually when you do that is sometimes you'll just like open your phone and then your body will just like go to where the app was.
Yep.
I'm like, damn,
you just shut your phone off.
I really was addicted. That's a good thing I deleted that. So just finding like little ways to just kind of like get it out. Because I think it's important. I think anytime you like start giving too much acknowledgement to that noise and like worrying about the wrong shit, like it really is. I wish it was always as simple as like just going out and hooping. The reality is it's not. It sounds like maybe with you it is, which I wish I could channel that a little more.
Yeah, like I said, I've been hearing all the same stuff since I was 17 years old. So it's like I beat it then. Like I'll just continue to do the same thing. And like one thing I tell myself all the time is probably I would say like 99.5% of anybody almost in the world would like trade positions with both of us right now. If you ask, like you could have somebody tweet something. If they had a question like, would you switch lives? I guarantee you they would say yes. Like we live the best life you could live. Like obviously there's other sports and people love other sports and they're doing what they love, but like we're in a really, really good place. Like why am I, self-sabotaging myself?
Yeah, it's actually a point that Spo always makes to us to like give a little perspective, which has always really resonated with me, is that for whatever reason, as NBA players, like we're all living our dreams, but generally speaking, it's like a league of misery where like everybody is like, I don't have this opportunity, or, I should be having this or that. And it's like, if you just take a moment to like take a step back and be like, man, like this is a child game that I get to play and get this opportunity and make money and whatever it is that you care about, love of the game. Like I think about the fact that I've had a basketball season every single winter since I've been 8 years old. Like that to me is remarkable. Crazy. Like, and not to like lose sight of that, because it's kind of easy to like, if you just kind of get into this default mode of just like, all right, next game, this, that, whatever, like it's easy to fall into that. And it can be a dangerous place to be because it's not doing you any favors, your team any favors. It's just also like, we all want to live a happy life.
For sure.
Well, I'm curious about that. I was going to ask both you guys about the league overall having a negativity problem. And this is something, and we don't have to get into too specific if we don't want to, but JJ got into this a little bit a couple of weeks ago. And this has been a complaint, I think, with a lot of the TV networks, but it does feel like there is a sense of it. There's a lot of bitching all the time. There's bitching about 3-pointers. There's bitching about this. And it's just like, enjoy the game. You don't see this with football. You don't see this with baseball. You don't see this with golf. There's a celebration of the Masters. And it feels like increasingly there's a level of saltiness that is coming from all sides of the spectrum, which makes it, I would have to imagine, I mean, it's exhausting for me and I'm not playing. It's very exhausting if you're like, oh, I'm going to ask you about the Christmas thing in a second, but you're like, oh, I have a game winner on Christmas and I wake up the next day and everyone's complaining about something.
Yeah, I mean, I can't control them. I can't control what people say. I don't know. I don't get it. I think as a, whole, the NBA is, more skilled now than it's ever been. So I don't understand what the problem is. Maybe we do shoot too many threes. Maybe they think that some of the, purity of the game is gone, but I think it's just we're playing the game how we think it's the best to win. Like at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We're trying to win. And analytics, people talk about analytics all the time. JJ's big analytics. Like, I don't care about the analytics. Like, I have a feel for the basketball. And to be honest, if you're not making threes right now, you're not going to win. If you're not taking them, you're not going to win. So you have to at this point. Like, I know Bron doesn't like it, like, but we need him to make threes. And but as far as, you know, all this stuff with, you know, JJ and whatever, I don't even know what was said, to be honest, but he loves the game of basketball. And I think that's where his frustration, you know, comes from, is, you know, he actually enjoys the game of basketball and doesn't understand why, you know, people have to, you know, always say bad things.
I think we need more threes.
When you shoot them like you,
yeah, you know, we need more guys that are just shooting threes.
Less athleticism.
Yeah, exactly.
We would fit in perfect.
Let's just go back to launching threes. I think there's a couple points I want to make to that. One of them is, I don't know shit about ratings. I see what I see in terms of this is down, whatever. In 2025, I think just painting a picture of what cable television is telling us around the popularity of the league seems a little misguided to me. I don't know in terms of like general popularity, fan engagement, how people are becoming fans, to just say that let's just base this off of turning on a TV and watching the entirety of a game, that just feels wrong. Like, most fans, and it is what it is, they're still fans, are box score watching, highlight watching, watch this 10-minute recap of this game. Austin had 32 against Sacramento, whatever.
Parlays.
Yeah, parlays. That is also driving a lot of this too. Box score watching for parlays. Back to IG. I'd probably say 98% of my DMs are, you sold my parlay. Like, that's all I get. With that being said, the other side of the actual competitive product, the problem is when you have a team like Boston that just won a championship and they're shooting 53s a game, you have to shoot maybe 40, or maybe you don't have to shoot 50, but if you're going to try to, you're not going to hold them to 85 points. This isn't the, 2004 Pistons. Like, you're just not going to be able to do it. So you have to shoot at least 43s. Now, what you sometimes get as a messaging of a coaching staff is, all right, we got to shoot 43s. Maybe not everybody that's shooting those threes should be shooting them, but there's got to be some learning curve with some of these teams of like, all right, this guy should be, this guy shouldn't be. And let's be honest, not every team this year when we started the NBA season is trying to win a championship. That's just how the nature of the league is. So I think I agree with what you're saying. It's ultimately, teams are trying to win. Like, no one's out there like trying to lose games, especially with now, how tanking has sort of kind of been avoided. But I think it's ultimately the skill level is as high as it's ever been. And when you see the best teams playing a certain style, you got to kind of get with the times or you're not going to have an opportunity to compete.
I want to get your perspective on Christmas, on that moment. You've had a lot of great moments so far. This just felt, especially with Steph going crazy on the other end, your thoughts in real time, and then in sort of the weeks to follow. Obviously, it's just a blip in the season, but it is also a Christmas game winner against the Warriors. So just your sort of your perspective overall on it.
It's probably my favorite memory I have in the league so far, other than maybe going to the Western Conference Finals. That was a team aspect, which was, a lot of fun, competing at that high of a level. But it was really, to be honest, I was shooting the ball horrible. I wasn't making shots that I normally make. 80 went out. So when you have a guy like that go out, you have to find something else to feel what he does for us. And it's not just going to be one person. We have many people step up in that game. Bron was obviously amazing. And like you said, I think it was just a really, really good basketball game. Steph was making shots that nobody but Steph makes. But just, those last 5 seconds, or well, we could go back probably to like 20 seconds or 17, whatever it was, when Steph hit that last three to tie it. I completely fucked up the whole switch and gave the best shooter that's ever stepped foot on this earth a wide open three. It was from 35 feet. But as soon as he caught it, I was like, shit, it's going in. But after that, it was really just, let's not go to overtime. Like, let's win the game now. There's no need to, play more basketball on Christmas. Let's go home, see our family. And the play was for Bron. They did a good job. They jump switched it. I think Steph was guarding that inbounder. He denied him. Draymond was being really physical as always. And we didn't have any timeouts at the time. So I told Max if Bron wasn't open, then I was going to, pop and get the ball. And really just basketball instincts took over. I don't know why Jonathan Kuminga was guarding Rui out of bounds, but thank you. But yeah, and then obviously us going crazy, on the court, having that moment, it was very special.
That was definitely a special moment. I think it's also in today's NBA, very rarely do you see, obviously you're a star player. This isn't a shot at you, but like you don't see a not maybe first option get an opportunity to take a game winner. The way it goes is now it's like going to be an ISO or some sort of coming to the top to get the ball and pick and roll or something. So I always think it's special. Broken play, LeBron's denied. You have an opportunity like that. It's cool. I mean, that's like what you grow up. I mean, everyone grows up watching Christmas Day games in the NBA. So for you to have a game winner, that's got to be, like you said, I mean, it's as special of a moment as you've had.
For sure.
It's also Bron, Steph. I mean, it's like those two.
You're the cherry on top of that game. Everyone's going to remember that game as the hillbilly bogey game winner for sure.
No, it was, like I said, it was an elite basketball game. Like back and forth. We had an opportunity to, kind of put it out of reach. I think we were up 7 or something with a couple minutes left. And then Steph hit a ridiculous corner three where he didn't even shoot it. He kind of just threw it at the rim, and I'm under the rim. It don't look like it's going in, but it just like somehow, rims in, and then he hit the one to tie it. But it was just overall a really good basketball game.
Curious from both of you guys, getting back to the sicko thing for a second. Do you think you can coach or teach competitiveness, or it's just natural?
I think some people have it more than others. I think you can instill it into a group. Therefore, you have to. Like, you can't be, or you don't want to be the only guy that doesn't play hard. If you have a whole team that's bought into what you're trying to do, compete in every possession, you probably aren't going to play if you're that guy that isn't competing. So I think that there's things that you can do to help with that. But obviously there's some guys that have it more than others.
I would say teach is challenging. I would say inspire competitiveness is possible. I think that can come from another teammate. Doing something, taking the charge, you're looking at yourself, all right, well, why can't I do that, or get on the floor? And I think that goes from a player's perspective and a coach's perspective. I think a coach can inspire, his team to be competitive, for sure. But like you said, there are some guys that just have a predisposition to doing so.
I feel like it's a thing that we've talked about a lot and has become, almost a cliche in certain ways, but some of the stuff with Heat culture is this. And it is just no matter who you put out there. I mean, they are you go to the finals with, it's a ragtag.
Yeah, plumbers and accountants, man. We find a way to get to the finals.
But that's competitive. That's competitiveness.
Yeah, Division III players and 24-year-old rookies. Make it happen.
Doing it twice.
For sure.
No, that's great, man. Awesome. We appreciate you coming, taking some time. I know you got a busy schedule, so this was awesome.
No, for sure. Appreciate y'all for having me.
Thanks to Duncan for joining us for that great conversation. Here's Austin and I on some of the ratings updates from 2K's latest cover, which they released on January 10th with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. we're back. Mr. Austin Reaves, NBA 2K partner, is a great partner to both of us. We wanted to run through, season 4 kicked off on January 10th, and they released their new ratings updates. And so we wanted to run through some of these jumps because some of them are pretty interesting. And so I'm going to read them off, I think, and then maybe just get your perspective on them as competitors, friends, guys, just what you think about some of these things. The first one, their cover star, SGA, is now up to a 98. He's +1 up to a 98, tied with Giannis and Jokic, the only 3 98s.
He's a stone cold killer. I think I don't even really have to explain myself. He's, they've got one of the best records in the NBA, and he's the head of the snake. Efficient. Like I said, he's a killer.
Here's my question. So we did an ep with Jalen, with J-Dub on Saturday, and I was asking him about shape, just about his pace and how he is not. You can't speed him up, you can't slow him down. So you guys are, you may play them in the playoffs. You guys have had a couple battles with them already. When you're approaching somebody like this who's just so smooth, what is your, not how are you going to stop him, but what's your advice with somebody like this just to even budge them off track in a certain way?
Yeah, it's tough because you usually say just make it hard, make their shots hard, be physical with him, but he's so good at drawing fouls. He's a tough shot maker. So even possessions where you think you guard him well, if he gets to his midi or his punch, sidestep to the right, there's a good chance it's going in. So you just try to be as disruptive as you can. Like you said, you're not going to speed him up or slow him down. He's going to play at his pace regardless, but you have to guard him with everybody on the court, not just one person.
Another jump, guy you played last night, Mr. Wemby, up to a 95, up +3 from a 92.
That man he's incredible. He caught one. I think everybody tries to be physical with him, bump him off his spot. He caught one at a little bit, probably the second hash on the right side last night, and I was just like, all right, I'm gonna give him a nice shoulder to the back. He spun off me so fast, I look crazy. But shoots the ball at a high level. Defensively, it's not even close. He disrupts everything better than anybody in the league. So, yeah, he's deserving for that 95.
It's also funny. It's funny. We were just talking about just competitors and just guys with some shit to them. And, we've had him on the show and I've seen him a bunch last year and this year. I was at their game at MSG on Christmas, where he went off and Kale went off, and he was pissed. Yeah. After he is a guy, he wants it.
For sure.
He's completely locked in. And so it's just scary when you have that level of skill set and the mentality.
No, you can tell he's dedicated to the game and what he has to do to keep himself healthy. I think I seen something earlier this year that he said, and he might have not have said it, it might have been someone close to him, was like, guys that he looked up to before he got to the league, he doesn't really necessarily like them that much anymore because they don't truly love basketball. And that's, I don't know how old he is. Is he 20? Is he 20 yet?
I think he's 19.
Is he 19? Still? For somebody to just even have that thought process, that's special.
Yeah. De'Aaron Fox and Evan Mobley, actually 3 of them, De'Aaron Fox, Evan Mobley, and our boy Jaren are all up to 89s +1.
De'Aaron might be one of the hardest people to guard in the league. He's fast. If you look at him, he doesn't look like he's strong. But once he gets to that, 10-foot area, his little bump fades, bump floats, it's got to be, around the best in the league. And then what Evan Mobley is doing for that squad over there in Cleveland, with the best record in the league. He's shooting the ball really well this year. Which gives them, more space to play. I think last year he didn't shoot it as good, so teams were able to, heavy shift off him. But with him shooting the 3 good now, it's tough to guard them because they got 2 guards that can get downhill, play make, and then defensively, it's like shooting over the Twin Towers. It's tough to have one 7-footer down there, but when you have another one, it just makes it even harder.
It's funny. I mean, JJ said it after you guys played them here a couple weeks ago. He's basically like, you got to basically play a perfect game to beat them.
Yeah.
Which is scary, and it's really a tribute to the jump that they've all sort of made.
Yeah.
I feel like individually.
Yeah, I think more so that they've just bought in to, what that coach and Steph is asking. You can see the joy that they have playing alongside one another. Everybody feels good. Everybody's playing good, and they compete at a high level.
I remember we did an app, I think our third or fourth app we ever did was with D Wade, and he was talking about De'Aaron, and he said De'Aaron was not to put words, to paraphrase, De'Aaron is the reason why he retired.
I think I've seen that.
Because he was like,
it's crazy.
He was like trying to catch up with him on the court. He's like, yeah,
I can't do it. Well, D Wade, I've had that problem my whole life. I can't catch anybody.
Like, Austin's not retiring, but it's
I can't catch anybody.
Then how about I was with Jaron.
Yeah.
I was with Jaron and Dez on Sunday in Houston. I think Jaron should be, I think he should definitely be an all-star this year. I think he's going to be in conversation for all NBA if he keeps this up.
Yeah.
He's an 89, but his offensive jump has been crazy.
Yeah.
Because he's a guy, he's the one defensive player of the year. Since he's come in the league, he's always been, a force over there. You're friends with him. You played USA with him, but he's now doing it all.
Yeah. I think just unlocking and having space on the offensive end. I think they brought in a couple new coaches this year that they instilled a different, I think, system, which has helped him a lot. But, anybody, he shoots the ball really well. You had to find him in transition anytime he's trailing the plays. He like those trail threes. And then he gets to that left hand and it's automatic, which is weird because he's right-handed. But no, he's, like you said, even defensively, he's a monster on that end too.
A couple guys, one vet that are on here that are interesting, one vet and one rookie that have both jumped up to 81s. Russell in Detroit and Russell Westbrook in Denver, and then Alex Sarr in Washington. They do completely different things, but they've both really been hooping the last month or so. And so, have you guys played Denver recently? I'm trying to think about your schedule.
We played them. It's probably been a month.
What do you think about just what he and Jokic have been able to unlock together?
It's beautiful basketball. They both pass the ball at a high level. I feel like anytime I open my Instagram app, it's Jokic throwing him a backdoor cut and he dunking it. But it's, being around Russ for, I think it was a year and a half. Unbelievable teammate, unbelievable guy.
Such a good dude.
Yeah, great. I mean, he's so genuine. I had COVID my rookie year in Minnesota. I was stuck. And, he texted me 2 or 3 times in the 3 days I was there asking if I needed anything. So to see a guy like that, go be successful and be an engine of that team is very cool to see. And then the rookie, like you said, I haven't watched a lot, but from what I have seen, he's made a big jump from what I've seen in Summer League.
They just have, they may not win a ton of games this year, but Bilal's another one. They got a bunch of young athletic dudes who play defense, who it just feels like they're building that thing the right way.
For sure.
We talked about De'Aaron already. 2 guys who are getting close to the 90s, and maybe all-stars this year in the East. Cade Cunningham is an 89 and Darius is an 89. Both have had unbelievable seasons.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of Cade's game since college. He came to Norman, gave us 40. I don't forgive him for that, but he's a player that can do everything. Score at 3 levels, passes the ball really well. And he's got size. He affects winning in multiple ways. Yeah. And I've been a fan of his, just his game. He's smooth. He doesn't get sped up. And like I said, he's really physical and uses his size to his advantage. And then DG doesn't have that much size, but man, he's quick. And he's got every move, got the ball on a string, shoots the ball really well, passes it well. So those guys I'd say they're going to be 90s before too long.
We did an app with Jared Allen about a month or 2 ago, and we were talking about DG. And at that point, I don't know what the number is now. At that point, he was shooting like over 70% on floaters.
Yeah.
And I was asking Jared, I was just like, bro, like, how do you defend that shot?
It's almost impossible because you have Jared Allen behind that. So if you're the big and you step up, he throws the lob.
What are we talking about?
So that's what I'm saying. So what he does is he changes his pace in that floater zone really well. He baits the big up, and he'll get the assist. And then next time the big don't want to come up, and he kind of fakes and fades. And that's when he gets to that floater. Glass, no glass is, like you said, a very high percentage shot.
So before we wrap, there's some top 13 movers that I want to talk about. I'm actually excited to talk about some of whom are your teammates, but younger guys that are making a jump up. Jalen Wells is up 11, up to a 79. I was talking about him with Des and Jaron the other day. They were basically like, what they've been most impressed by as a rookie is they decided about a month ago, we're putting him on our best player every night.
Yeah.
And he goes and does it. And he doesn't say anything, doesn't complain. And, he makes life difficult for them.
For sure.
And you know how hard that is as a rookie.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, especially to do that every single night. He seems, I don't know how old he is. Is he?
You don't know either.
Is he young? I don't know. He seems like he is an older rookie.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong.
It's 21.
It's not young, but it's not old. But every single game, he knows his job and he knows what he's out there to do, and he does it very well. He's physical, guards the ball well, but also shoots the ball really well. You can't help off of him. He's going to make you pay, and it's not like he's just a shooter either. He can get to the rim. He's got some floaters. So I've been very impressed with his game.
Two rookies, Jared McCain, hopefully he gets better soon, but was balling before he went off on you guys, right?
Did he? I don't remember. I
do remember
the one.
I remember the thing he put his YouTube caption about. I got the play
for sure. Yeah, no, he was cooking. I didn't watch a lot of him in college. I don't watch a lot of college basketball, but I knew who he was, and he was getting to it. I think it took him like a week or so, probably like 5-10 games to, kind of figure it out. I don't know how long it was, but once he did, every time I looked at, or watched a game, he was killing. So yeah, hopefully he gets, I think I seen the other day that he was out for the season. So, but once he gets back healthy, I don't expect anything else.
Two other rookies, two bigs. Missy in New Orleans is up to an 80 plus 10, and Zach Edey, also in Memphis, is up to an 80 as well, plus 8. Weirdly, there's a lot of good big rookies this year.
Yeah. With Edey, his ability to get Ja open is probably, other than rebounding, probably as an outsider watching, what I'm most impressed with, because anytime you can get Ja downhill against a 5, you're going to like your chances. And then in New Orleans, he's got a motor, plays hard. Every single possession.
Those guys, Trey's been playing great for them. They got so much talent there.
Yeah.
I mean, part of this, and we didn't get a chance to talk about this with Duncan, but like the West is just so good.
For sure.
Like you just they've been unlucky.
Yeah,
they've been lucky. They've had a ton of health stuff.
Yeah.
But it's also like you just have no margin for error. So if you're them and you're missing BI, you're missing Z, you're missing Murray for a while, like there's just not a lot. There's no one in the West who's rolling over.
No, even when those guys weren't playing, I think we played them in New Orleans. And I think it might have just been, I think at one point their whole starting 5 was hurt. And I think BI just came back and it was a dogfight.
Yeah.
Those guys played really hard.
Yeah. Two role guys who play different positions but have been great in the East. Boy, Ty Jerome up to an 81 overall, plus 9. And then Dyson Daniels is plus 8 to an 82, which I'm curious about. He's, maybe been the best defensive wing in the NBA this year. It feels like that should be higher, but we'll talk to Matt about that.
No, he's Dyson's a problem defensively. And then, just his activity. He his anticipation is second to none. Anytime you can't frame a pass against him, you almost have to look the other direction because he's got a wingspan I would assume is up there, and plays really hard. I think when we played them, I think I had probably 6 turnovers, and you
guys had a good. You just beat him here.
Yeah, that was that game. Well, I was out in Atlanta. I didn't play. That was in
the Miami trip. Yeah,
and the game here, I think I had 6 turnovers, and I think he had like 5 steals of them. So, very disruptive. And then who was the other one we were talking about? Ty. He can hoop. Pace, can shoot it. He's got game.
All right, we'll close on this one. We got a chance to talk to Duncan about this as well. Your boy, your rook. Dalton Knecht, +6, 77 overall. Our hope is that keeps going up.
For sure.
But your just thoughts on him and the game and overall.
Yeah, I think, he's going through the ups and downs of being a rookie. I think everybody goes through that. I definitely did. Just his shot-making ability, what he brings, for our team, we need. Like we talked about with Duncan, you have to make threes in this league now. And he's probably our best shooter that we have. Even if it's off the dribble, catch and shoot, whatever it is. If you can get him any, daylight, he has a very high opportunity to make the shot. So I can't wait to, continue to watch his growth. Good kid that, really loves basketball. And at the end of the day, when you have guys like that on your team, you're better off as a team and you want to see them succeed.
I think that's a good way to close it. NBA 2K, Season 4, get it now.
Yes, sir.